Starfleet Underground. Every week, we'll take a look at the latest Star Trek news and then check out a current or classic episode of Star Trek.
Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Starfleet Underground. Today is not going to be our normal podcast, where it won't be talking about the shows or the homework. I have the unfortunate responsibility to let you know that we lost one of our own. Fred has passed, and his absence is keenly felt by all of us, and I'm sure for those of you that listen to the show as well. We have a couple of people on today. We were able to grab them. We have TJ and Kevin, and we're going to be dedicating this show to over the things that Fred has brought, his life and everything else. So this will be a little bit more of a somber episode, and if that's not your thing, we totally understand if you don't follow all the way through. But if you had loved Fred as much as we did, and as well as all his Tribbles, you'll listen through with everything that we have. So we're going to have some never before heard by the outside public clips of Fred when we were getting this show and everything together. So we're going to go with a round of introductions. We'll go to a little bit of a brief news segment, and then we'll go into Fred. My name, of course, is Nathan Adams, captain of this vessel, retired fleet admiral from the 1701st. And we have on here first our new guests. We have TJ and Kevin. TJ?
Yep. My name is TJ Miley, and I worked with Fred and attended 3 Star Trek conventions in Las Vegas with him. And that's really, how I got to know Fred the best.
And now we also have Kevin.
Hi, guys. Kevin Passmore. I'm a long-time friend of Fred's. I've got stories about when he first started to work. Proud to be a fellow engineer with him for the Star Trek conventions in Vegas. Proud of that, too. We can talk more about that as we go on.
That I'm looking forward to hearing. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then we also have, of course, Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm the science officer, and I think I met Fred, 4 or 5 years ago. I know it was a while ago, and he just amazing. We met at the Star Trek convention. Like you said, we'll talk about it later. And then he started following me on Vegas Aces, and he was just always in my life. He was always around, and yeah. This is just hard.
And we have Rocky.
I actually am the new one to all of this. I ran into Fred because I met Heather and at the Star Trek convention. So only for, since the last convention. So I'm the newbie over here.
And myself, I met Fred through this podcast as well as through Heather's videos and interviews and things. And his personality really shines through on everything. And listening to this podcast today, you will grow to love him just as much as we did if you don't already do. A little bit of news before we jump in today. If you haven't heard, everyone's wishes, and including Fred's profound wish, was for Star Trek to pick up a series with the cast they had on Discovery. So I forget the name of the show right now, so somebody correct me. It's going to be called...
Oh, what did they call it? Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
That's it. So it's going to be with Pike, Spock, and Number One. And last week, we showed how Number One and Spock got together with the short of Q&A. So everybody had great joy in Mudville when they heard that. So for us, it was a bittersweet moment hearing that series is going to pick up and Fred's passing. So we kind of like to think that Fred had something to do with it. With his energy, he went out there and influenced them to get the show because he wanted us to happen. So thank you, Fred. Does anybody else have any news?
That's really the big thing that stood out to me. We're all in the middle of doom and gloom over COVID.
Yeah.
And this bright light just got turned on for Star Trek fans. And yeah, it is bittersweet because Fred would be bouncing off the walls, I think.
Yeah.
And we all know that, they had to do a Captain Pike type show. And it was kind of like obvious. It's like, duh, they're going to do this show. They're stupid not to. And they made it official when they announced it this week.
And if you haven't had a chance to peruse the video announcement of the show, that will make you shed a tear as well to see the exuberance in which the people who were in it, Ensign Mount and Ethan Peck, and oh my God, I see her face.
Rebecca, was it Rebecca?
Rebecca, yes.
Yeah.
Their excitement and being able to do the show is definitely visible. You can see just how much they wanted to do it. Okay, if nobody else has any other news, we're going to go ahead and go into the situation at hand. We found out that Fred had passed. The information, I'm not going to reveal that. I'm going to leave that to either Kevin or DJ if they want to tell us why. So we're going to start off with a little bit of introduction that Fred did on the very first podcast. So you guys can listen to that and hear him in his own words talk about himself.
Hi, my name is Fred Beutler, and I've been a Star Trek and a sci-fi fan for many years. My first exposure to Star Trek, ironically enough, was the animated series. That's how I got interested in Star Trek. And when I'm not riding around on starships, I work as an electrical engineer at a power plant generating electricity. That keeps me, I guess you could say, electrified. Keeps me busy. So looking forward to see what Picard has in store for us. Welcome to our Starfleet Underground podcast. Thank you for joining us. And today we learned that for the iPhone there was the iBorg. And our show is brought to you by Section 31 because Area 51 wasn't forward-looking enough. And I'd like to welcome our crew today. We have Heather, who's with us. Do you want to say hi, Heather?
Hey, how you?
And we've got Rocky.
Good, whatever time of the day it is.
And Nathan.
Hey, I still can't get this replicator to work. I want my oatmeal.
Love a good oatmeal.
Yes. And I'm Fred, where if you're getting ready for breakfast, I'd recommend the Captain Picard cereal. All the replicated sugar you need to start the day.
Woo.
So that for you guys, that was Fred before. Again, you heard a clip that's never heard the light of day other than us today. So let's go into the job there. You said you guys knew him from way back when and on work. Tell us about your memories there. Either one of you can start off. Who wants to go first on this?
I'll start first because I knew him first. Fred came to us out of college. I was already working here. And, from the very beginning, been very intelligent, and we were so lucky to have him because, as you can see from the Star Trek knowledge, he has the ability to absorb information and maintain it and use it. So, great person to work with. Fast forward a little, 20 years at the convention. I'd gone to the convention a couple of times, and I was talking with Fred, and I knew that he was available to travel and that he wasn't married. And I said, "Why don't we go to the convention?" And then I told him what I'd done there, what we'd done, and he was interested. And then we talked more and more about Star Trek through those couple of years. And then finally, I talked him into going probably 6 years ago or so, as Heather said. And he sounds so exuberant on these podcasts, and so such a great leader and dynamic. At work, he's a little more low key, and I just would not have expected that out of him. So when we got to the convention, he would talk to people and. He knew, from my perspective, because I'm not as smart, have a good memory as he does. He knew everything, and I'd be in conversations with people. He'd come bail me out and help me succeed. And that was part of Fred's way, is he was so accepting of people and helpful. He never said a bad thing about anyone. So we went to the conventions. He loved it, and we've enjoyed going back ever since. So, TJ?
Yeah, so this is TJ, and I'll piggyback on, kind of what Kevin said. I came along a lot later than Kevin did. I've been working at the power plant for just over 10 years now. And so Fred was already there and well established. And as Kevin said, just a super smart expert by the time I got there. So Fred was definitely a little bit intimidating. He was an expert in, every sense of that word at the power plant. And so I knew him professionally for a while, somewhat intimidated by his intelligence. And as Kevin said, definitely, kind of a different personality, a lot more low key at work in general. Hearing that intro that we just heard was just amazing. And, I've seen glimpses of that going to the conventions with Fred the last couple of years, but that's really the last kind of 3 years when I've gone to the last 3 conventions with Fred, or when I got to know him a lot better and see his excitement for Star Trek and, excitement for other fans of the show. And, I'll be honest, I wasn't that much of a fan when I started going to the convention. The first year I went to the convention, I hadn't watched very much of the show and was really there as a friend of Kevin's. I was a fan of sci-fi in general, but just kind of see what the convention was like and see the fans, and got to know Fred. And I've been watching the different versions of the show steadily ever since. But really seeing Fred's excitement at work, just like we were talking about earlier, and, Fred's just kind of exuberance, and he would have been ecstatic hearing about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And, that's when I saw glimpses of kind of the energy that we hear in that intro, was when, we weren't talking about work stuff at work, and he'd come over to my desk and ask me if I'd heard about the new Star Trek news, or tell me new news he'd heard. And he just loved it a lot. I think one of my favorite things in the last about a year, I was actually Fred's supervisor, so his at work, and so his loss is particularly hard, and I've kind of got to way through a lot of fallout from that too. But one thing that I really liked and I found really encouraging and really just made me smile, and I even texted Kevin and made me smile, was kind of going through Fred's computer. We found a list of passwords that he'd kept in a Word document, and half of Fred's passwords were all Star Trek related, one way or another. So that was just so cool to see.
I hope none of those was towards our transdimensional beaming technology. We think we had that locked down on there, but he worked really hard. And if you have any of his formulas there, that he did a lot of genetic modification to Tribbles.
Yep.
I haven't come across that one yet, but I'll let you know.
But he did chuckle every time we talked about Tribbles. I mean, he loved Tribbles.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Definitely. We have something we may drop later on in the show, but it's a long clip, and we may even offer a link to it for those that want to hear almost a solid 34 minutes of Tribble jokes. Things collected on all the different shows. He is really something else. He even sold us a Glommer to keep the Tribbles under control.
He only sold you one Glommer, dude. You should see my closet. My closet is full of the stuff he sold me.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. I'm sure you guys remember that the Glommer ate so many Tribbles, it just looks like a Jabba the Hutt now. It won't even chase after anything.
It just sits there and goes, ho, ho, ho.
That's it. It won't even, if it's within arm reach, it'll eat it. Other than that, it just sits there.
Yep. And every time I had trouble with the Tribble, he would have the remedy, but, he wanted that latinum. So I had to fork it over.
When we talk about the cost of things, he'd always bring equate it to latinum too. It was very, very funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
We got to check. Was he part Ferengi and we didn't know?
I think there's some lineage there.
Wow.
I'd mentioned I'm not an expert in Star Trek, and I'll start talking about something, and then he'll tell me what the show was, who the actors were, and what the real theme was. And he'd always start, I'd say my point. He'd go,
Well,
It's not
yes,
you know, which is that's like Southern speak for bless your heart.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then he'd tell me the real story, but he never looked down on me for anything. I mean, I could say the most off the wall wrong things, and he would just explain it the right way, and he'd be smiling, laughing about it, and that's how he was, just accepting of everybody, and not a bad thing to say.
Yeah, now you really bring that up. I didn't realize he did that. He was like, well, actually, they don't go with that.
They've heard him say well before.
Oh yeah, I've heard that from him so many times.
That is so right on. As a supervisor, I heard that a lot at work too.
With his depth and breadth of knowledge, he was able to almost be like a seer when it comes out to different things, that he would be able to take the information and extrapolate it and come up with a theory of what was going to happen, and he would nail it.
Now, what I was thinking, and this is maybe a little bit, maybe I'm overthinking it, but later in the episode when Picard and the Romulans are talking about the Zhat Vash, which is kind of described almost, to use the Section 31 analogy, of being kind of like a Section 31 within Section 31.
Yeah.
Yeah. That for some reason the Zhat Vash are paranoid at artificial life. It's not explained why, but they have some deep fear of it. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe the Zhat Vash maybe had a hand in this, where they wanted the Federation to turn away from creating artificial life, and this was their way of kind of making that happen.
That's very interesting.
And they were so paranoid of it that they were even willing to sacrifice a lot of Romulan lives, even knowing that this would put a crimp, in the evacuation fleet. But their fear of artificial life was so overriding that maybe they had a hand in it. I'm thinking that the infiltration started when Starfleet started actively developing synthetic life forms. I think that's what prompted it. I think when, like Bruce Maddox and his team were developing a whole big group of datas, essentially, I think that probably got, the Zhat Vash and Tal Shiar.
Isn't it more like a nest of Soji or a nest of Daj?
Well, they say there's a nest, but we don't know what type of a nest yet. And
I'm thinking like a planet, and then there's like some kind of hole, and you go in the hole, and it's in the inner core of the planet, and there's spider webs everywhere, and then you see like all of these Sojis and Dajas just walking around aimlessly.
I mean, like Harry Corton mod?
That's what happened. Bruce Maddox happened up on that Android planet. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I bet you, though, like I said, that the infiltration happened when Starfleet started actively pursuing synthetic life forms. And I think the pending supernova was just an opportune moment for them to act. I mean, I think they were so paranoid about AI and synthetics that they were willing to do something drastic like what they did on Mars, even knowing that they'd lose a lot of Romulan lives. But their, intent, their mission,
do not like synthetic life forms. So
so that overrided everything.
You get somebody into Starfleet, and then you're able to make changes, and you have a little bit of control, and all of a sudden, oh gosh, we're going to supernova here, and they're going to save us with a bunch of synthetics. Hold on a second. I got to fix for that. Let me just put in a little fatal error into this code and no one's looking. And there you go.
But it also tells you how vicious they are. I mean, the fact that they were willing to sacrifice a lot of Romulan lives to basically use that as a means to get the Federation to stop, dealing with synthetics. It was interesting that he had 5 Qs. Does that mean that maybe Q?
That's interesting. That's an interesting theory.
This story?
That could be interesting. Yeah, could Q come into play?
That would be cool. I'd like to see Q again.
Like maybe in episode 5?
That would be a really cool thing.
Ooh, Fred, that's pretty sneaky. I like that.
I'd love to have one of those repair devices, that Rios was using, that the Synths had given him.
That was a very interesting device.
That was, where you just kind of imagine the repair occurring and voila.
Use your imagination.
We need that. Rocky, get on that. We need that on the ship.
It was hard enough to get that lightsaber. I'm trying to figure out how to get one of those things.
I wonder if they have a replicator that will make it. We should go down and ask them.
Hey, Nathan, do you think maybe Section 31 has one of those that we could maybe borrow for a little while?
We're going to have to try to catch them when they try to visit Heather in the middle of the night again. See if we can interrogate her.
Oh. Does that mean that's my assignment, Captain?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's a field replicator with a neurocatomic interface. I wrote that
with
down.
No buttons.
With no buttons. Just no trigger. Just hold on to it and imagine. I imagine that would be a very dangerous tool to have in Section 31's arsenal. I bet you they don't have one.
I'm going to make a prediction. I bet you that device shows up next season. They're going to get in some predicament and they're going to whip it out again and it'll save the day.
It would certainly come in handy.
Yes.
I just hope it has a good enough battery life.
Yeah, something tells me it will. It's like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah, it'll keep going and going.
Right.
And he'd make a lot of those predictions at my desk as well. And it was, he loved it. You could just see his eyes lighting up. And we'd certainly predicted the Captain Pike and Spock and number one. And we said that has the potential to be the best show ever. We love Discovery and we love Picard, but that show, there's so much excitement in Pike's eyes in number one and in a new Spock. I mean, that's big. And Fred knew that. I mean, he's the one who said that, and we just kind of laughed and hoped it'd come true. So like you said, he might have made the difference there.
The thing that's wonderful about Fred is he had that encyclopedic knowledge. It was just built into him. I mean, we're all Trekkies to some extent. But I'm the kind of Trekkie that realizes I'm not the encyclopedic guy. I mean, I know a lot of it. I don't have it all memorized. There are guys that have it memorized. There are girls that have it memorized. But Fred was definitely one of those guys. When you do a show like this, you got to have one of those guys. You got to have that knowledge, that's solid Trek knowledge that's right there. And boy, did he have it every show, every time he was here.
Yep.
We seem to overemphasize the differences rather than remembering that we all are human beings, and we forget about the commonalities we have.
Yep.
Yeah, we all have one Earth we live on. We're amazing as far as the species goes, and we could be 100 times more amazing if we work together.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that episode where Starfleet wanted to basically turn Data into a lab rat? They wanted to disassemble him to figure out what makes him tick so they could create other androids. And he had to defend Data's basically life as a unique life form. That's been a long-standing gag with the exploding panels, because a lot of people have commented, why do panels always explode? And that's why Data was Data, not
Data. Yes.
That was one of the examples given in terms of, why is Data pronounced Data? Because Patrick Stewart said it that way during one of the initial script, read-throughs. And I think this is a good example, too, of why Star Trek holds up over time. I mean, even today, when we watch this episode, it still has a lot of important messages that it can, teach us.
I would love to see Cisco punch out Q just one more time. I think that would be...
Yes!
that would be awesome.
That would be so cool.
You notice that when he showed up and Cisco nailed him, he never came back.
Yeah, right? He knew how to do it.
Yeah, he decided to go bug Janeway instead. And then, of course, there was that classic scene where Scotty walks up to the holodeck and he's, telling the computer, "Show me the bridge of the Enterprise. Please specify my registry number. NCC 1701. No bloody A, B, C, or D. Program complete. Enter when ready." In engineering, when the Borg first appeared and they were, scoping out the ship, there's that scene where, Picard tells Worf, to take out the Borg. And then, Worf immediately turns around and delegates to his ensign. Captain saying, Worf, take care of it. And then Worf is like, ensign. I thought that was kind of funny.
It's like, I'm not touching it, you touch it.
This could be an interesting trivia question. Yeah, because someday someone's going to ask, okay, who was the first character to die in the Star Trek Picard series? And that'll be the answer.
The boyfriend.
The boyfriend, yeah. Whoever that dude was.
There were a lot of fans hoping that was Seven's daughter. And I'm really disappointed about that.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
But if you
so
look
eight
at...
of 9? The differences in the Klingon appearance, let's say, between Star Trek the Motion Picture and not including Discovery, those differences were more subtle, smaller changes. I think there was more of a giant leap in appearance. FNN, so I don't know if that's like CNN's corporate great grandson, so to speak, or...
So FNN,
This news segment is brought to you by the Federation News Network.
Oh, I was thinking fake news.
Do you want to know more?
Well, maybe it's a matter of perspective. What would we have if we, created lots and lots of datas and basically confined them to doing the grunt work? Essentially, it would be slavery.
Did anyone notice on the screen that Freecloud there was dice rolling?
Yes,
so are they going to Las Vegas? Are they going to casinos?
To Space Vegas, baby.
Yes! Yes! We're going to Vegas! Woo!
It's all about Freecloud.
I really hope we see Dabo. Oh my God, I want to see Dabo. Please let there be Dabo games.
Waitress, can I get another Romulan ale?
Got nothing but Romulan ale and vibrating triples out in Freecloud.
It's interesting when that name first popped up. I didn't think it was a place. I thought it was just like a futuristic version of the cloud as we know it today.
Yeah, I thought it was like a computer hack point that they go into the database and go, hackers go black hat. No, it's apparently it's a place that has dice. It sounds like a cool place to check out.
There were
what
dice
would be really funny is if Quark were to show up there.
Oh my God, I would love that.
A casino there. I'm kind of wondering whether the Borg storyline is truly going to finish up this season or if they have it planned out as a multi-season storyline. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll come across a smorgasbord of facts. Don't shoot me. Sorry about that. It was bad, I know.
There was a page announcement in the background about some sort of Chronoton issue, and if you're in a certain sector, evacuate. What was her name again? Saga, was it?
Saga.
Yeah, Saga.
Yeah.
You could say the eyes got that one. The worst way to die in Star Trek Picard has to do with your eyeball.
I was going to say one of the writers really likes that method of death.
They have an eye problem, obviously.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Some serious eyesight issues.
I mean, to take her hummingbird.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether Narek killed her, or maybe I'm almost thinking maybe Sutra did, as a kind of like sacrificing one person to maybe rally everyone else against the organics.
Yeah, I think that you hit the target right there on that, Fred. Every single time, as you heard from the clip, he just nails his facts. He was really, really good when it came to things like that.
Yeah. I would used to make fun of him and tell him that he has part android in him. I'm like, are you sure you're not a synth?
Oh.
Are you sure you're not a synth?
Maybe that's what, I think I finally stumbled on his lineage. He's part Ferengi, part synth.
And part human.
And part human. It's a blend.
Well, it's a testament to you as well that you guys would accept him like that, because here you are, you're all like famous in Star Trek, and to take a walk on like that who just idles up and starts asking questions and is interested, and then you put him on the show, and no disrespect, but he kind of carried you in some cases. So, like you said, with those facts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You got to have somebody that does that, because otherwise you're just a bunch of people.
I still laugh about the Rios's ship, and I can't say what it is. And I just re-listened to that last night,
Yeah, he knew exactly what it was. He went back and found that clip, the part of the show where they referenced the actual model number of the ship. And I love that kind of detail. I'm an engineer too, but I'm a video engineer. But, we talk about equipment all the time in our business. So knowing the model numbers of things, so very important. And I just love that Fred brought that up that time.
The name or the type of ship that Rios has is the Kaplan F-17 Speed Freighter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the red bullion was offering to increase the efficiency, because he commented, "Hey, your ship is only operating at 91% efficiency," and the red bullion can get the Kaplan F-17 Speed Freighter operating at peak efficiency.
I think he's using 9% of that for holograms.
That's probably for certain.
Probably.
And I enjoy the fact that he spoke Nathan, because a lot of times I'm like, I either butcher the word. I am a how would you say, an instinctive feeler and fixer. I work for a defense contracting company on computers, and a lot of times I can fix something, but I can't exactly give you the right nomenclature or name. I just know that I know how to fix it. And so a lot of the stuff I do fix like that. So it's intuitive. But Fred always was able, if I fumbled on something, he was like right there with laser beam, and it would like give me the actual name, the actual thing. So yeah, that's
he was the universal translator.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was a real asset to this crew. He was just so amazing with all of the facts in his head, and exactly what you said, just like a human encyclopedia. And it was a real benefit to have him be on the show and be around, just because of who he was and how amazing he was as a human being.
But still, a tribute to you guys for being so accepting and letting that come out. And, it's just, you guys are very nice people who are kind of the Star Trek, mantra or world. You guys might know the right word, Fred would. But it's part of Star Trek, and you guys exemplify that. And this is an example.
Thanks. Thank you.
There's times where he also had the uncanny ability to really play into any of our bits we did. He would pick it up, because a lot of the stuff, it's not pre-scripted. And a lot of the things we'd start off just out of the blue with some random storyline, and he'll pick it up and continue as a great improv person.
Yeah, he was so good at that.
So it's just...
He really was. And you wouldn't, I wouldn't have expected that before we went to the Star Trek conventions. I was worried he'd be a little too shy, if you guys can believe that. And that would Vegas be overwhelming, and what would we do? And I'm getting the bags, and he's talking to some girls who are waiting for their suitcases. He's already in the Vegas experience. He could walk up to anybody and have a conversation about anything. And they were good conversations. It wasn't just, how's the weather? He had that ability, and I think it showed probably in his church work. He was big into the church, and just everyone he met, he could talk. And I wish I had that ability, but he was amazing.
We can, if I'm not mistaken, I think we have a clip of him talking about Star Trek Las Vegas, and we can get a little bit of his insight.
In fact, this one was actually during the Vegas convention we recorded. This was on YouTube on Heather's channel. Let me roll it for you.
And that was really neat too when they did the audience participation, where they actually had everyone, yell QUAPLA, and they try to get you to yell really loud. And that audience participation just really, it makes everyone just...
There's excited. Not a better way to start the day than shouting QUAPLA.
QUAPLA. Exactly.
Gets the energy flowing. Yeah. I remember that guy that was sitting in front of us.
Yes!
He was really getting into it. Yeah, he was standing and waving his arms.
You thought his favorite sports team just won because he was screaming QUAPLA.
Yes.
Yep, he was really, really into it.
That's a good comparison. Just like a favorite sports team.
You see, again, he comes right out there with information and being able to expand on it. That's pretty cool.
That enthusiasm. It's funny. We talk about Trekkies being a certain kind of fan because a lot of us are introverts. A lot of us don't like, not used to talking to people. And to get the crowd going, it's a challenge sometimes because we're just here clapping, quietly, having a good time. But, you get the Klingon thing out there, and the Klingons, of course, really want to excite you. And just like a sports team, that guy was standing up going, "Qapla!" like a crazy person. I remember that guy too. And it was something else. I just love that Fred noticed that and totally brought that out there.
Qapla!
Yes, and it is a great way to start the day, by the way. It totally, if you're going to start a day, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I honestly would never have known he was shy. He was just so friendly and nice and caring and sweet, and just, I would never have guessed he was shy. I'm sort of glad I didn't see that side of him, because then I was able to see, Fred, and I was able to see who he was, and I was able to get to know him and know that he was just a really, really good and, amazing person and everything.
It was funny meeting him, the whole experience of meeting Heather and then meeting Fred and the other people that bounced around Heather during that whole, several days at the convention, because I'm like, who is this guy? I'm trying to figure out, who is this guy, Fred? He's who is he? And you realize he's a gentle giant. He was just literally a definition of a gentle giant. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, an absolute sweetheart.
To the point where he even agreed to be the backup host if I ever get interrupted or couldn't make the show. He was willing to do that.
And it was funny because when we did that one recording, that test recording, we were kind of auditioned, and I was worried about Fred, because I'm like, can Fred really pull this off? Because I know I probably in a pinch I could probably figure out how to host a show, but I didn't want to. And Heather is like, she doesn't,
I didn't want to.
Not excited about hosting either. She has the talent for it too, but she doesn't want to. So to find someone to just go out there, okay, fine, I'll do it. And not only did he do it, he actually, by the end of that show, you really could tell Fred could totally host the show.
Oh, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if Nathan decided to quit on us, because we're crazy, or Fred could have had the show very easily.
Or if we lost him in the mirror universe, we knew that Fred would guide us through it.
You go back in time and step on the wrong grasshopper, and then Nathan's not there. It's
right.
Fred would have had it covered.
Although he might bring back a Tribble.
Yeah, the only minor disadvantage with Fred is the Tribbles.
Yep. And if something like that would have happened, Fred would have gave you the exact reasons and circumstances behind it. Well, you have to see, that stepping on that grasshopper, right, made that woman, if they didn't step on the grasshopper, it would have hopped on that woman, which would have made her run to prospective person that would have been his father.
The butterfly effect.
Since that grasshopper was dead.
It's the grasshopper effect.
The grasshopper effect.
Since you killed that grasshopper, it never hopped on her. So she never met his father. Nathan does not exist.
Wait a minute, grasshopper effect. Does that mean all those grasshoppers at the Star Trek Las Vegas? Was that what was going on with them? Is that why we had all those grasshoppers?
Wow, that makes you think, doesn't it? There were a lot of grasshoppers.
There was a ton of grasshoppers.
Seriously.
That reminds me, I don't think I ever heard him say, "I don't know." You just explained the butterfly effect, and Fred would always put some logic to it and come up with options and solutions.
Yeah.
So,
I bet he was just a dream to work with.
He was perfect. Like you said, who doesn't want an encyclopedia? It's like a Data or a 709, as an asset. And he had even though he could lead in that, as you saw, lead the show, he didn't have any ego that said, "I'm going to, you're going to do it my way," or I'm talking here, I want you to listen. No ego. The great, as you in the last clip, a great color man where Heather's talking and Fred sees some facts that he could relay, and he chimes in, and it makes the situation better. So just incredible.
Yeah, just exactly like Kevin said, so on top of everything at work. He just an encyclopedia. If he didn't know something, he looked into it and he figured it out, on his own so fast, but always willing to divert and start talking about Star Trek, or just slip in a Star Trek joke someplace in work.
Now let's segue into that. I want to hear you guys' funniest memory you remember of Fred there. I know there must be a lot of them. I can hear you guys' brains turning. Like, which do we pick? That's okay for public consumption.
Well, that's what I'm trying to screen is public consumption. Maybe you could cut this story if necessary, and feel free to. But
well, names can be changed if we need to protect the innocent.
Right,
and we do have an explicit rating.
Yeah, we do have an explicit rating.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I've heard the podcast. It's not that explicit. So, when I'll try to make it quick, and I'll maybe this won't be funny, but it was after midnight, and we were walking around Vegas, and an attractive girl had come up and started talking with him, which he loved to talk. And I left him alone and went on and did some other things and came back, and he said, Kevin, this girl has a pool and a friend. And I said, Fred, and I said, come here, Fred, and I explained that it was a lady of the night. And he got a little red and very politely said, no, I don't think so. I think we're going to be heading back to our hotel. So, it was funny to see Fred in situations where, he as for any of us to be in that, but that was pretty darn funny, where he was just conversational. He was not suggestive whatsoever. And then, that was the result. I thought the water was a little cold in the pool personally, but.
Oh, it's awesome.
In terms of the Star Trek convention, that was a great, that was so funny from what Kevin said. And the other one that I liked, I know, after the convention was over, Star Trek in Las Vegas, Kevin and I would spend a lot of time walking around and go to the strip a lot and just kind of watch other people watch a little bit, play some games a little bit. Fred, didn't always come with us. I actually didn't come with us, that often. So we tried to include him and make sure he was having fun. And I know he was. I know he was having fun with the, Star Trek crowd a lot of the time back at the Rio. But,
he needed some sleep to get up early.
There was one time. The other thing we tried to do was always encourage Fred to, have a beer here or there. And usually he didn't, partake. He didn't really drink with us either, although he did a little bit in moderation. But, there was one evening we'd kind of been encouraging Fred, and he was kind of, well, no, maybe later. And then it was at the little slushy bar at the Rio. And after we'd gone back a second time, the guy at the slushy bar gave us some special Star Trek glasses for kind of returning customers that year. And so, we met up with Fred, and he saw our glasses that we had, and he said, where do you get those glasses? He was so excited. And we told him we got it at the drink place, and he went, he wanted to go immediately and get a drink then.
Yeah, he had to have those glasses. That was...
That's very cool. I can relate to that. That's funny.
Same thing at the Star Trek convention. Do you remember that ice cream machine they had in the hallway? Oh yeah. He liked that. He thought that was cool.
Yeah, he did. I remember him telling us about that after he'd used that the first time.
Yeah. Yep. He thought that was so cool. Yeah, he was just so much fun. He would just dive right into it. I mean, like I said, I didn't realize how shy I was because he would just go right into it. I mean, when we went to the Klingon karaoke and everything, we were just singing and we were having a good time, having fun. And there was this one time where the girl in front of us, Shell, she's a doll. She took a photo of herself and I photobombed her. Fred was like looking up at the karaoke thing, so Fred's in the picture too. And I showed him that and he's like, oh, I wish I would have known. I would have photobombed too. Like, he was just always up for fun and everything, and it was just always a good time with him.
He was. A few years ago when they had the contest for the most costumes, and London had just got the record, so we were going to do that too. He didn't have his regular shirt on, but he had black pants on. So there was a guy there that had jeans on but a shirt. So we send him so I said, Fred, you got to do it. And we send him in the bathroom. Well, this guy was about as big as Heather, if you've seen Heather. And Fred was bigger than that. So he peels off his captain's shirt and he's in the bathroom a long time. And I I run in there and say, Fred, we got to go. And it was difficult to put on. So I helped him roll it down, and I'm running him over to the door because I wanted him to be the one that broke the record. Oh. And as we're approaching the door, the hallways are cheering for us, not for me because I wasn't dressed, but it's cheering. And I just love that Fred got that, those accolades. And then he goes through the door, which I couldn't get into because it was only people that had been dressed in the shirt or in the full uniform. And the cheer goes up again, and I'm thinking, wow, this is Fred's day. I just could not have been happier for him. Now, as it turned out, he was the second from the record. Otherwise, he would have got the pictures and all that. But yeah, it was just a huge moment in his life, and I was so happy that he got to have it. And that's characteristic of, I think, everybody that is friends with Fred is you want him to have fun and succeed, and you're happy that he's having fun with other people and just living the best of his life. And I think that's one of the things I've noted in thinking about Fred's passing is all of his friends wanted him so bad to just enjoy life, and he brought even more into our lives, for that. So
yeah, he really did. He really enhanced the people he was with, and he was so positive, and he was so looking to have fun. I mean, you don't see that with most people. Most people are just like, no, give me a drink. I want to stay at the bar and talk. I mean, he was actually fun, and he wanted to do stuff. It was awesome.
I guess the best way to describe him more would be in a pot or in the stew of life. Fred was the seasoning.
Yeah.
He brought out the flavor of everything.
That's a good way to say it.
Yep. And that is going to be sorely missed. I know myself, when I found out, I was catatonic for the next day or so. Just in general, you just can't believe that a energy force is as intense and as he felt as he is can be gone.
Yeah.
So that's why I know that he had something to do with that show coming on. So no doubt he went and whispered in someone's ear, make this happen, okay? Well, I don't know if we should gamble on another Star Trek show. Well, let me tell you why you should.
Yeah, I've been crying off and on all week when I found out he passed away. I couldn't even do my live stream on Monday, and then on Thursday I had to mention that he was that he passed in a moment of silence, and I'm trying so hard not to cry on a live stream. Oh my god. And I've literally been crying off and on all freaking week.
So but again, I feel through the show and through everything else, there's an old saying, I don't remember exactly, and this is where I miss Fred because he would have known right off the bat. But as long as you remember someone, they live. So he's going to live a very long time because there's no way I'm ever going to forget him.
No.
I've worked several memorials for police and fire departments, and that's one of the phrases they say. They probably say this phrase at all the memorials, but it's something like, as long as we remember them, they will continue, basically. And the cool thing about the podcasts is it's out there in the cloud. Everyone, there's at least 12 of our episodes Fred's on, and you can always just go back and listen to and hear Fred. I mean, he's talking about something he loves, Star Trek. It's just wonderful. You can go back and listen to the guy. He sounds so lively and so excited and so happy in these clips. I love that we've caught that. And I spent the entire week sorting through all these recordings that we've had. And it's surreal because the guy sounds so dang alive in all of these clips. And he will be, as long as we can go back and listen to them and hear them. It's wonderful that we've captured him.
And there's an advantage that we have, that unless you are a actor, unless you're a movie star, most noted people or a big public figure, most people in history, their voices are lost forever. Their words may be there, but you never hear the tone. You never hear how they spoke. You never get their full personality from it, just written on word, like Cleopatra or Mark Antony or any of those people in history. And we have Fred. Anytime that anybody miss him a little, they can put on a pair of headphones and they can listen to an old podcast and it'll be just like he was there.
Or you can go back on Heather's YouTube channel and see the coverage from Vegas.
Yeah.
We had so much fun doing those things. Some of them till 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And after a long, long day, we were a little bit loopy on some of those. And that was just so much fun to do that.
Yeah, and he was such a sport. I mean, he did it all with a smile on his face. You could tell 1:30 in the morning he was tired. And he was like, so, how many more of these do we have to do?
And I'm pretty sure he said, well, at least once during that time.
Oh, I'm sure it was at least once. Oh, man. I'm so glad he did that with us.
And of course, it would be my luck is the one time ever that I missed going to Vegas is when that was happening.
Yeah. Yeah, because you probably would have been a part of it, too.
Oh, you know that for certain, and the fact that how we all got along on the podcast just proves it.
Mm-hmm.
We all got along on here. There was no animosity. There was no jealousy. There was no nothing.
Always fun.
We all got along really well, and it was always a lot of fun,
Yeah, during one of those nights, I'd said to Fred, let's meet up for supper. And he said, I have to go talk to Heather and the crew and do some things. I said, that's fine. Thinking like 9. He goes, yeah, I think 9 sounds good. So 9 comes, 10 comes, 11 comes, 11:30 comes.
That's where we had it.
I'm going to take a cab to the deli in New York and get some food. I get back, it's 1. He's finally down. No, he's down. He's playing the Buffalo game.
That's funny.
Because he'd won $300 that week. So he's feeding that. And I said, did you have a good time? He goes, I had a great time. I go, you could have texted.
No, he couldn't. Seriously, I was driving them all. It was from one video to the next video he did not even have a chance to text. I am so sorry I did that.
No problem, because I enjoyed that he was having so much fun. It really was no problem at all. The longer he stayed, the more fun I knew he was having. And the deli was closed when I got there, but I came back and then we went and got some pizza at 1. So he really enjoyed it.
Good.
This just gives me the warm, tingly feelings all over. This is so cool. And I'm very appreciative. We are collectively very appreciative that both you and your friend there, TJ and Kevin, that you guys could come and join us on board to be able to celebrate Fred. It just makes me feel like I know him more. I get a chance to see some sides of him I didn't see.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us and talking about Fred with all of us.
Heather, you'd mentioned, we've all cried a little. And I guess I take solace that when he was in the hospital, I know he was thinking of how much fun he'd have when he gets out. And we all expected him to recover, and he did too. And but every day I'm sure went by of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this.
For those, is it permissible to put, if not, we can edit it out on exactly what happened, because that information wasn't out there for us?
I'll give you a quick rundown. I believe the whole thing took about 40 days. He went in for gallbladder issues, did some exploratory surgery that went bad. They had to do a radical removal. That also had complications, got medevac to an even better hospital. I thought he was going to get out in about 2 weeks. He had called me to pick him up. He sounded great, sounded exuberant, enthusiastic, like his old self. And then over the next few days, he went downhill, had complications. Ultimately, when you're in the hospital and you're getting meds and CTs and, dye and things like that, and additional surgeries on the gallbladder, his kidneys shut down. He was on dialysis. They still thought he's going to recover once we get this, dialysis cleans up his body, including his kidneys. They had him on some drugs for losing fluids, and ultimately he had a heart attack, and he couldn't revive him. But like I said, every day he thought he was going to recover, and I could see him being optimistic.
Thank you for letting us know.
And I think I think in talking to his friends, I know why, because he did know he would enjoy every day. And you guys are a big part of that.
Yeah, that was something we weren't aware of, and we didn't know if the information should be out there. But thank you so much for telling us. That allows us the full breadth of it. It just shows that I'm sure that Fred would have said the same thing, that you got to really appreciate and enjoy people and everyone around you as much as possible, because you never know what tomorrow, you never know what the next split second will bring. When he was saying goodbye to Seven, and it's like, I may never see you again. This is true whenever somebody says goodbye. That just blew me away. It just a realization that, yeah, every time you say goodbye to somebody, there's always a chance you may never see them again.
Yeah.
If you have lost somebody recently, you're in a moment where you're really deeply affected by that. But if you stand back and realize that literally every time you say goodbye to somebody, you may never see them again. It really, really, messes with your head if you let it get to there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's when you're talking to the Romulan warrior, Elnor, he's all about that emotion and showing it 100%. So that's why when we just love his reactions, because it's always so pure to that character. He's always 100% what he's experiencing. When he hugs you, he means it.
Well, another point that kind of caught my eye a little bit was when Picard is talking to Seven, and Seven tells him, keep saving the galaxy, and he tells her, well, that's going to be up to you now.
I feel that I've been incredibly blessed and lucky to have Fred impact my life.
Yeah.
Such a wonderful, wonderful man. And such like you said, he's a gentle giant. He really was. He had a core of iron in the middle where you could see his determination, his joy, and he never hit you over the head with it. Never. But you always knew that he had true strength, because you knew by looking at him, he was capable of doing it. And that's the greatest strength right there, is to know that you could do something, but you refrain from doing it. And that was him. People who don't are bullies. And he was never somebody who was like that. He had the strength, the knowledge I'm sure, to put people into the dust, but he never did that. Never did it. He always came in a loving way to correct people and everything else.
Yeah.
Exactly right. He was so accepting and just liked to have conversations, and didn't mind if people disagreed with him. The opposite of a bully, and a good role model for all of us. And I don't know anyone quite like him. That's even close to like that. A great person.
Yeah, really, really great person.
No, as we're getting close to the end of the show, we actually have some goodbyes from Fred here. Rocky, I think that rather than me closing out the show, we're going to let Fred close out the show in his own words. I do believe we have some clips of that.
Okay, we'll roll it.
So I'm going to, instead of saying just goodbye right off the bat, I'm going to have the crew all yell and say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. So long. Farewell.
I'll be saying goodbye. Now remember, go ahead, Fred.
And make it so.
Yes. Just don't have a good week. Make it so. This is Starfleet Underground bidding you until next week. Bye.
Starfleet Underground, beaming into a podcast feed near you. Log on to our website at starfleetunderground.com and send your comments and questions to thecollective@starfleetunderground.com. Follow us on Twitter at StarfleetUnderG, and on Facebook and Instagram, we're Starfleet Underground.